Welcome back, everybody, to the 2016-2017 school year. I'm real excited. I hope you guys all had a great summer. I know I did. We're going to cover today some new and exciting procedures and expectations as far as attendance, safe and respectful learning environment, school discipline, and emergency procedures go. So, with that being said, let's just get started right away with attendance. Infinite Campus, it's our third year doing attendance over Infinite Campus. Remember that you have to do this every period, every day. It's a good routine and habit to get into, to do it as soon as that second bell rings. Start calling off names for kids, who's here, who's not. And if they're absent, you put absent, and if they're tardy, you put tardy. However, remember that if they're 30 minutes late, or 30 minutes or less late, that you need to change that absent to tardy and have the kids immediately sign that tardy log. Maintaining accurate attendance record is your responsibility, so just something to keep in mind. As far as the verification forms and attendance records, should we get audited, we need to have these verification forms. So it was a good procedure we had last year. Every Wednesday, Tina will print out those verification forms, and all you have to do is verify it, sign it, return it. Make sure you're looking over it pretty closely so that there are no errors on that. It does get kind of conflicting with parents and students and teachers and disrupts classrooms when a kid comes in or a parent's upset about, hey, my kid says that he was at classes at this time. So again, make sure that you're just paying close attention to that. As a reminder, students who are absent from school should be afforded a minimum of 3 days to make up work after an absence. It is their responsibility to initiate contact with you. You do not need to go hunt them down. Something to remember, it's a kind of a misconception that they get 3 days to make up work for each day that they're absent. That is not true. They get 3 days upon when they return from school. Now, it's a minimum. We are in the caring business, so if you want to extend that further, 4, 5, 6 days, whatever that looks like for you as a teacher, that's fine. That's kind of just being a decent human being. If a kid's very ill or there's family emergency, you don't have to stick to that 3 days. You can award them or afford them more if you wish. So take that in consideration. If you know that a kid's been gone for more than 10 days in that semester, please contact us and remind us so we can take a look at that and see if we might have to deny some credit. Tardy procedure. This was an issue that we had last year. So the discipline committee has met and we decided on an updated policy procedure. Every classroom will utilize a tardy log. Make sure in your first 3 days that you're setting that expectation and that your procedure is clear, that if they are tardy, the first thing they do is sign that tardy log. Every third tardy will result in a discipline referral. So on the 3rd, 6th, 9th tardy, you should be sending referrals to me at the dean's office. Infinite Campus allows for ongoing behavior referrals, and all you have to do is just add the dates that they were tardy. So if Joey missed September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, he's tardy 3 times, I should be getting a referral. On the 4th, 5th, and 6th, I should be getting a second referral. And then you just go back into that original referral, add the dates that he was gone, and send it to me again. You will use your tardy log to determine the number of tardies. So that's an easy way to do it. Just pull up your log and say, oh, okay, there's many of them there. I have emailed a sample tardy log from Miss Katie. This is the one she uses in her classroom to all of you, and it's on Interact. Feel free to use that one, or you can create your own, but a tardy log must be utilized. Moving on to the safe and respectful learning environment. Remember that respecting different opinions, diversity, and backgrounds through tolerance and respectful discourse is the goal. The bullying procedures have not changed. Remember, if you see it, if you hear it, if you suspect it, let me know and I will begin that investigation. Last year we did a phenomenal job, and I really think the district and specifically our school is doing a really fantastic job at alleviating as much bullying as possible. Remember that all persons are entitled to maintain their own beliefs and to respectfully disagree without resorting to bullying, cyberbullying, harassment, or intimidation. This goes for you as well. You are entitled to maintain your own beliefs and respectfully disagree. So keep that in mind. This isn't just kids oriented. This is for everybody. You are a highly educated, tax-paying, society-contributing leader in the classroom. You have zero time to argue with children. You can be respectful and communicate and debate. However, arguing in power struggles with children to me is nonsense, and it's a waste of your time. Remember, students have every right to succeed and every right to fail. You should do your best to motivate and clearly communicate your expectations. You should be also providing students rigorous assignments and reasonable time to complete those assignments. And it's my belief that if it's important to them, they'll do it and they'll succeed. I really like this quote. The educational process must again provide the opportunity for students to make choices and live with the consequences of those choices. Teaching is not simply telling people what to believe and do. Classroom management. Amy hit on this a little bit on Wednesday, and she often used the word expectations. It's been my experience, and from what I've supervised and observed, when the classroom teacher has clear expectations, it seems to run a lot smoother, and there's less conflict within that room. But anyway, make sure that you're establishing your rules and that you are consistent with those rules throughout the year. If it's okay to do in September, then it should be okay in May. Let's not get in the practice of making the rules up as we go along. Spend your first days, weeks, quarter establishing those procedures. Teach the procedures so that the students are 100% aware of the expectations and the consequences. Remember, last year we taught like a pirate, so be creative, be engaging when we're presenting your rules and procedures. Another good tip for classroom management is make sure you're instructing from bell to bell. Involve those parents early and often. On Infinite Campus, I believe teachers just got access to a contact log. Make sure you're documenting all that parent communication and all the ways that you tried to communicate with them. Put that down. So that's a nice documentation's nice to have. You can always go back and say, hey, I've tried to contact you 4 different times on these dates at this time, and you didn't get back to me. And that way it puts the responsibility on the parents and the students as well. Communicate and share effective management strategies with your colleagues. So if you have something that's working, by all means, share it with each other. Facilities in your classroom environment. There are 4 required posters that should be hung in your classroom. 2 of these are new. The expulsion posters are brand new. There used to be 5 mandatory expulsion recommendations. We're down to 4, and a couple of those have gone away. So we're looking at some new discretionary items as far as expulsion goes, and I will discuss that with the kids during my dean's orientation. But look for those posters. They'll be coming in as soon as we get them. We will hand them to you guys. Bullying, cyberbullying, harassment, intimidation poster. Not much has changed on that. The fire evacuation map. You guys all should have that one from last year. That's still the same map with still the same routes. Obviously, when we get into the new building, that map will look different, and we'll get together with Bullhead City Fire Department and find some new and effective safe routes. And the Teacher's Crisis Response Guide is new as well. If you remember from last year, they had a 2-sided poster, which doesn't really serve us well if it's hanging on the wall. So they've compressed it down to 1 side, which is good, and all the procedures for a shelter-in-place, soft lockdown, hard lockdown, etc. are on that poster. So look for those as well. Moving on to discipline. Within your classroom, you should be using progressive discipline as well. So make sure that you've warned the students, you've made attempts to make phone call home, you've used focus referrals. Feel free to use a teacher detention, parent conferences, counselor referrals, and dean's referrals for major incidences where it needs to get right to me as soon as possible for major incidents. Our focus program has some new and updated procedures as well. When a teacher feels a student needs to be refocused, you can use the Google Sheets document I shared with all of you on your Google Drive and on your Google accounts. with all of you, or you may also send the paper focus form that we have as well. Feel free to use either form. It does not matter to me which one we use, or to Ms. Cameron. However, that student cannot leave the room until one of those forms has been filled out. So we need to do a better job, all of us, at monitoring students and knowing where they're going. And I think we had some cases last year where kids were sent to focus and never really showed up. So I'd like to improve on our monitoring process of sending kids to focus. Provide enough detail so that Ms. Cameron has a general idea of why they're there. If you're using the Google Sheets form, and we'll look at that, we looked at that today actually, just make sure we know why they're there and what time you sent them. If you don't want the student back, in the drop-down menu you can choose no, or on the redirection form just choose no. Ms. Cameron will follow up with you with an apology note from that student. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please contact me or Ms. Cameron. And remember, upon that second focus referral, especially if it's 2 in a week, you should be calling the parents and telling them what's going on within the class. Direct behavior referrals. These are referrals that come directly to the dean's office, and you're not using progressive discipline or sending them to focus. If any of these situations or incidences come up, please let us know right away, and get that behavior referral when you can. So as quickly as you can, but you do not need to disrupt the class or your lesson. Dress code, theft, fighting, gross insubordination, weapons, profanity, pornography, bullying, assault, extortion, smoking, drugs, or alcohol. Those will all result in direct referrals to the dean's office. When sending students to the dean, if it's a serious conflict or a serious incident, do not hesitate to call the office up here, the dean's office, at 4500. Also, you can call the campus monitor's office at 4005. If you have a radio, by all means, you can use that as well. Whatever means necessary. Text us if you have my phone number, and we'll get that handled. Referrals must be sent to the dean's office as soon as you can. Okay, when creating behavior referrals, we are in our 3rd year of Infinite Campus and using these to write our referrals. So if you need a refresher on how to do that, go to Interact, EdLink, Infinite Campus, Behavior Icon, and how to enter a teacher referral. There's also a ton of other resources if you need to get caught up, or a reminder on how to do those things. That's the path that you need to take. Remember, when you're writing your referrals, to only report the facts as you know them. Try to keep your emotions at the time out of it. And please pay attention to the spelling, neatness, and the accuracy. It's many times that's all I have to go by. So keep that in mind as you're writing those referrals. We still do have a few written referral forms available, but those will only be available to substitutes or others without Infinite Campus access, or if we have a technology meltdown. So remember to always put those referrals electronically, unless you absolutely have to use the written form. Moving on to the dress code. Dress code. No shorty shorts. If the garment length is too short, you use the fingertip rule. Have their kids put their hands to their sides. If it's shorter than their fingertips, then they need to change clothes. No exposed undergarments. Make sure the kids are pulling up their pants. It's disgusting. Prohibited tops. No spaghetti straps for the girls, and the boys should not be wearing tank tops. No rips, tears, or holes above the mid-thigh in their pants. I know that's kind of the fashion now. If they got tights or something underneath that's not bearing or showing their skin, we've kind of been okay with that, but no skin should be showing with the jeans. Headgear is prohibited. No hats except on designated days. Inappropriate slogans, pictures cannot be worn. If you see a dress code violation, send them to the dean's office immediately, and we will handle it from there. Something to consider is we need to be paying attention to this in the morning, first couple periods of the day. It gets a little hairy and tricky to dress code a kid's 6th period when they've gotten away with it all day, and then I have to have them change clothes or go home and change clothes, or have parents bring clothes over at 1:30 in the afternoon. So keep that in mind, first 2 periods of the day. Hall pass violations. We've kind of decided that we need to do a much better job of monitoring where kids are and where they are going for obvious safety reasons. So this year, anytime a kid needs to leave your classroom, unless it's an emergency, of course, they will need a hall pass. If you get a dean's request or an office request, by all means, that's okay. And some classes needs badges or has badges. Make sure that those are available. This year, the administration in particular is going to be much more vigilant about asking kids where they're going and sending kids back to class with passes, so we know exactly where they're headed and we can monitor them better. Bathroom breaks. Kids can use the bathroom, but make sure we're trying to promote that during your first 3 days to have them using during the passing periods. It's kind of been our experience last year that not a lot of good things are going on in the bathrooms during class time. So promote that bathroom use during the passing periods, and make sure that they have some sort of pass when they're going. There were many concerns last year about students disrupting classes and meeting up in random bathrooms that weren't closest to them. We had a couple of cases last year where both kids were in the portables and they ended up somehow in the 600 bathroom. So be aware of that. If they have to go, have them leave their phones in class. Because sometimes I got a hunch that they have to go to the bathroom, but it's more necessary for them to text their friends. Always issue a hall pass and have the students sign on the hall pass log sheet when they leave. Remember, if they leave, they got to sign out with the pass. When they come back, they got to sign in with that pass. In your expectations and in your first 3 days, develop a plan for your bathroom use. If it's a problem in your classroom, by all means, tell them your expectations, and remember that they must have a pass. Nuisance items. No headphones, earbuds, or personal entertainment players during classes. I find it extremely disrespectful when I go into classrooms and the teacher's speaking or lecturing and they got the one earbud in and they're listening to music at the same time you're giving instruction. So those should not be used during class unless it's, of course, part of your lesson, but something to consider. No bicycles, skateboards, longboards are to be stored in your rooms or on campus, but if you decide that that's okay, remember that that item now becomes your responsibility. And we had a couple of times last year where we had to go unlock classrooms. The teacher had left for the day, and then go round up a skateboard for them. So remember, if you're a good person, that's great, and you want to hold on to their stuff, that's great. However, it does become your responsibility. School rules in regards to cell phone and personal communication devices. Your voices have been heard with some of your concerns about the cell phone use. So the discipline committee met up Wednesday, and we have come up with some new updated policies for the cell phone use. During non-instructional use is prohibited during school day and during classes, unless it's specified by the classroom teacher. Your cell phone use policy must be in your course expectations. Now, we are sending a letter home to parents about our cell phone use policy, and that we are going to be a limited use school, which looks like however the cell phone use looks like in your classroom is how that's going to be. Now, we are not against students using their phones in between passing periods. We're not against students using their earbuds during passing periods until it becomes a situation where they have multiple tardies for class. So your cell phone use policy is up to you in regards to the classrooms, but make sure that you are clear. We are also going to be giving each of the teachers a sign that says cell phones allowed or cell phones not allowed. So if you're going to use them occasionally, you can just flip that sign over so students know when they're allowed to have their cell phones out and when they're not. Again, it's very important that you are very clear to the students so that you can say, we've told you, it's in our expectations that you've signed, the sign is up, and you still continue to have your cell phone out using it inappropriately. This year also in the dean's office we have some more severe consequences in regards to cell phone confiscation. If you confiscate a phone, please remember that that becomes your responsibility. So you're going to want to get that up to the dean's office as soon as possible. It should kind of be a last resort, but if it needs to happen, it needs to happen. But again, get that to the dean's office as soon as possible so we can take care of that. Make sure that you have it in a safe place, because kids will sneak it away from you and then make it look like it's lost or stolen and make it your responsibility. So something to be aware of. Also, with regards to cell phone use in your classrooms, you have to protect yourself. Make sure that those kids are using it for instructional purposes only. They may use their devices during assigned lunch periods, before or after school, on district buses, in between passing periods, as long as it's not disruptive. I want to say this and be very clear one more time. Be very clear with your expectations with your classes and with regards to your cell phone use. If you have any questions with the cell phone policy, please stop by the dean's office and we'll talk about it. Moving on to emergency procedures. Not very many changes at all this year as far as our evacuations, fire drills, things like that. We had many fire drills last year. We are experts at this. We'll be discussing fire drills and the alarm, shelter in place, soft lockdown, hard lockdown, and staff and accounting procedures, and of course evacuation. Fire alarm operation. Be sure to locate your nearest fire alarm. It's a good practice to get as soon as you get into your classrooms. You should all have a 211 or a Y11 fire key. Put the key into the fire alarm and turn clockwise. A good idea and good practice is to paint your fire key red or use a permanent marker. And then, of course, evacuate the building using the routes that you took last year. There are a few of you that have changed rooms, so make sure that you're looking at your maps for that. If you don't have a map, please come to our office and we'll get you one and get you set up. Shelter in place. For each of these procedures, whenever we have a shelter in place, soft lockdown, hard lockdown, the first thing you need to do is lock your door. And for the shelter in place, you need to lock door and tape door. Go to the critical event icon on Interact, and of course remain calm and resume instructions. Soft lockdowns. Be sure to lock the door, should be the first thing you do. Then go to the critical event icon. Continue your instructions. Await directions via Interact or Intercom. And don't leave if there is a fire alarm, unless of course there's a fire in your room. There are some new policies in regards to the hard lockdown. CCSD School Police has said that any adult on our campus can put our school in a hard lockdown. And you can do that by using the intercom, or we are going to be creating a telegram for teachers so we can use our cell phones to say we're in a lockdown. And I kind of like this idea because you should not have to go through administration or through a set of procedures if there's an emergency hard lockdown situation going on. So again, the school police has put the power in your hands to call a hard lockdown, but we do ask that you use very, very good judgment. There's a whole procedure that needs to follow whenever we're in a hard lockdown, so use that wisely. Again, you're going to lock your door. Make sure that you're using the critical event icon if it's safe. Project calm assurance. Keep your kids away from windows and doors and yourself, and use furniture to protect yourself. Duck and cover, no eye contact, and do not open that door for anyone during a hard lockdown. Anybody that needs to be in your classroom will have a key and be able to access your class. The critical event icon is how we account for our kids and staff. This must be done during every shelter-in-place, soft lockdown, or hard lockdown drill or event. If you're not familiar with that, take these first couple of days and go into Interact, and there's that critical event accounting icon. Play around with it. You don't need to input any data, but do know where it's at and how to access it. During an evacuation, we are experts at this. We had many fire drills last year, some scheduled, some not. But make sure when you're evacuating your classroom that you sweep the room. You should be the last one out and make sure there's no kids left in there. We recommend a boys and a girls line. Your doors should always be locked when you leave. Make sure you're using common sense, orderly fast lines, and a quiet, focused accounting of students. The student reconciliation spot is your designated spot for fire drills, and should there be an evacuation due to a hard lockdown or whatever, that is at the football field. And make sure that you remain calm. And finally, we will be having a Dean's Assembly with the students on Friday, September 2nd. This will be the schedule so far. Of course, that could change, but I will be going over all the rules and the expectations with the kids as far as behavior guidelines go. And if you have any questions, we're always available. We have open door policy here in the Dean's office. And thank you for your time, and have a great school year.